to What Juices You, where we explore what energizes leaders, how that energy fuels performance, connection, and growth. I'm Brady Wilson from Juice Inc. And in each episode, I sit down with leaders and we talk about what fuels them, what sustains them, and the lessons they've learned that can be helpful for all of us. Today, I am super excited to have Kelly Harper. Kelly is a good friend, known her for many years, but she, more importantly, is the VP of Visitor Experience at ROM. And a lot of you would know what ROM is, but the Royal Ontario Museum. Kelly, welcome.
Hi, Brady. It's so great to be here. So excited.
Thank you. Yeah. So today we'll start with the question I have been asking leaders for 20 years or more, what juices you? But let's put a finer point on it for you, Kelly. You are VP of Visitor Experience at an iconic, historic Canadian organization. And it has become really important for you to be able to generate this type of mindset where we are self-generating revenue in the organization. And in an organization such as ROM, with all that history, it's not like a quick pivot, but it needs to be something that is very intelligent and thinks through the people side, the system side, and I want to know, how do you sustain and your energy? What juices you in the midst of that kind of a
Yeah.
situation? Yeah.
Thanks very much, Brady. At the heart of, I think, who I am and what juices me is people. But it
Hmm.
sounds so broad, right? So we need to
Yeah.
think about when I joined the museum in 2019 and the changing environment for museums in that we were over 125 years old. We have millions of objects, 125,000 square feet. You know, our visitors talk about, oh, I came as a kid and I'm so excited to bring my kids. But now there's so much more competition for people's time, for people's disposable income,
Yeah.
that the nature of who our visitor is evolving, and what choices they're making about how they want to spend their time are changing.
Yeah.
While we are also being asked to fuel ourselves through increasing our self-generated revenue. So how do we do that at an institution that has been around for a long time? How do we think about change? How do we look at connecting our people with maybe some of our systems and modernizing the museum in a little bit more business-like way? So to think of the museum as a business, not only as a cultural iconic institution.
That'd be a seismic shift for the mindset inside ROM for people who've been there for, let's say, 15 or 20 years. Like, that has just
Yeah.
got to be a massive shift in the ethos.
It is. And it's interesting. So if you can think of the museum having a couple pillars, the one piece is our wonderful curatorial department. So the
Yeah.
paleontologists, the scientists that
Yeah.
collect and care for our objects. They're still very active from a research perspective. Some
Yeah.
have been at the organization for 35, 40 years, and this is
Wow.
their life's work, right? And then you have folks that are front facing, whether it's our visitor experience team, whether it's our housekeeping, our security, it's
Yeah.
working with our Department of Museum volunteers. And so how do we find a way to bring all these groups together and for them to see this shift, for them to get excited about this shift, and make the connection for them? So if I think about the curatorial team and they're still doing research, we're still finding dinosaur bones,
Yeah.
in recognizing that our attendance revenue pays for some of that work, right? Our donors pay for a lot of that work. So attendance and creating welcoming, enjoyable, consistent experiences is as important to the curatorial team as it is to the visitor experience team or anybody else. So that's kind of new for an
Oh, I bet.
organization that's 125 years old.
Oh, yeah. And I bet it should be important to me, but the love of the academic aspect of it, and it's like, it's so intrinsically valuable that I shouldn't have to sully myself with thinking about money. That's got to be difficult
Yeah.
for those folks. Yeah.
It is. And so it's all about how do we now, I think, create systems, which, as I said, with people and systems, to fuel and to support people in this transformation that we're undergoing. And so whether it's creating capacity or
Mhm.
whether it's helping them see the connection between different parts of the organization.
So I'd love you to unpack that because I find that so many times people pit the two against each other and they don't see the natural integration between
Right.
people and systems. And the people systems are always looking askance, or the people are looking at the systems askance, and the
Right.
systems people are looking at the people and going, yeah, soft, fluffy, and what value do you really add? And so, could
Right.
you talk about how you have helped people on both sides understand the true value of each, and what are the
Mm-hmm.
integrations look like that you've been able to
Yeah.
make?
So for me, it probably started, it's hard to do the math these days, like 15, 16, 17 years ago. I used to work for Be My Financial Group before I came to ROM.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
moved into a new group and it was kind of anarchy. There weren't a lot of processes in place. And so I've kind of evolved from process to systems. And
yeah.
so it was chaos. And for me, it was uncomfortable because
Mhm.
I was spending a lot of time putting out fires, repeating work that could be,
Yes.
duplicated easily. And so stepped back and said, you know what, let's just try some things. Let's work together to create some new processes, some systems, and see where we go. And
Yep.
so that changed my own mindset because I never thought of myself as a process driven person.
Yeah.
But I was frustrated. And if I was frustrated, my teams were frustrated. And I knew we just weren't being as efficient as we could. So over time, it's really evolved for me to recognize that systems and processes create capacity for people because I don't have to
Mm.
recreate the wheel every time. Like I love to do something once and rinse and repeat, whether it's a template for a presentation or whether it's using dashboards for our reporting or whether it's, thinking about how we welcome visitors and that repeatable choreography, if you will.
Right, right. Yeah.
And by doing that, you don't have to stress every time about, well, what am I doing here? You kind of only decide once, and that's the way to go. And it frees you up to be in the moment. It frees you up to do more of the things that you might want to do with your time because, some things can run on repeat.
It
And
feels to me like you're talking about, the rose on the trellis. And
mhm,
so the trellis, that structure, the system that is meant to uphold and direct even growth. And you also want the system not to be so confined that if there is an innovative way of doing choreography, that there's that autonomy as well. So how do you do
right.
both?
Yeah.
Yeah, just speak to that.
Yeah. So a big part of it is, we like to have a test and learn approach. So just because we develop something once doesn't mean it won't evolve.
Sure.
And where we can, engage our teams in that process from a change management perspective is always, the best way to go.
Right.
And so it's thinking about what are the non-negotiables that I don't want you to have to think about? Like, what do I do with this? What is the process for this? So that you
Totally.
can focus on that warm welcoming, having those conversations. Is this your first time here? What do you like to see? This is my favorite thing to see. Don't miss seeing this. So from a visitor experience perspective, so they can spend more time on that human connection
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than the transactional connection of where's your ticket? Do you have your ticket? Those types
Yeah.
of things.
I love
Mhm.
that. I love that.
And so part of
Uh,
that, I'll just build on that, was
yeah.
when pre-COVID, only 20% of our visitors bought their tickets in advance. 80% bought it at the ROM. And
Wow. Yeah.
so COVID flipped that because we had to open during COVID. The months we were open, you had to have a ticket in advance. We had to manage capacity. So it flipped to 80% buying in advance and 20%. So it's like this is doing is it's helping us plan because we know how many people are coming.
Yes.
It is helping the visitor manage their expectations because now they bought a ticket online. We can tell them ahead. Here's an email. Plan your visit so we're not answering the same questions all the time. So when we didn't have to have time tickets anymore, we were saying, well, what's going to happen to this experience? And so at the same time, we were building for a transformation that we can talk about later. We're redesigning our entry from Bloor Street.
Okay.
And so we started a program and we wanted to move, and we called it from cashiers to concierge. And so how do we move away from our front of house visitor experience team being transactional cashiers to really being that welcoming concierge to help you make the most of your visit? And so we've been able to settle in at, 50% of our visitors buy their tickets in advance. We have
Yes.
self-serve kiosks now so that we can have those more meaningful conversations rather than be transactional.
So one of the things I love, from my perspective, behavior doesn't become behavior until there's narrative first. I don't know that that's
Yes.
always true,
Mm-hmm.
but the language that you architect just makes such a difference. And even what you just said, it shifts my sensibilities around how I will treat people if I have shifted from a cashier to concierge. And
Right.
so I think you're a cultural architect there, and you're looking at how might we use language to be able to help people access a different way of being. Are there other
Mm-hmm.
examples of language that you have utilized to help make that shift? Because I think that first one is a beautiful one.
Thank you. It's one of the things that I learned early on when I moved into my first customer experience, visitor experience role in about 2009. And it's that experiences don't happen by accident
Yeah.
when you create experiences as an organization, and you have to be very intentional. And that's where the language comes in about the experience you're designing, both for the organization to deliver the promise, but also recognizing that customer experience, visitor experience isn't giving every visitor what they want, but
Yeah.
it's saying this is the experience here. If this is
Right.
what you want, then come and get that with us. And so
Hmm.
if I said to you, um, if I asked you to name a leader in customer experience, give me a couple of organizations that you might say are leaders.
Zappos is one that
Yes.
comes to me right off the
Yep.
bat. It's like creating happiness in the world.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
People think of Disney. People
yes,
think
Disney,
of
another one for
Apple.
sure.
If
Yeah.
I said to you that I felt that Costco was a leader in customer experience, would you be surprised by Costco?
Initially, yes, but as I look at how we shopped at Costco, no, it is a gorgeous experience,
Right.
actually. Yes.
Right.
So
For
tell me about
those,
that.
yeah, for those that want to drive a wide cart and are so excited to find four flashlights for $8.99 that they didn't know they needed, it's a great experience.
It
But for
is.
someone who wants a high touch experience or might be overwhelmed, it's not for them. I remember taking
No.
my cousin the first time, and she was like squirrel, like what? I don't know what to do. I don't know where to look. There's just so much.
Yeah.
So it's not for everyone, right?
No.
But for those who love it a lot
Yeah, for
and are
sure.
passionate about it and are very loyal about it. But it's not for everyone. So it's understanding for you as an organization, for us as ROM, what did we want? What do we want that experience to be?
Right.
So one of the small changes we made when we moved to cashiers to concierge and rolled out the kiosk is we took everyone out from away from behind a desk. There's one spot behind a desk. If someone needs a little bit more time or they're buying a
Yeah.
membership, they have a lot of questions.
Sure.
And that was really, really hard because we got rid of the chair.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Because someone sitting in a chair isn't welcoming. Someone coming up to you and greeting you is much more welcoming. And that was a very intentional change. And people said, we miss the chair. We want the chair back. I'm like, I'm
Of
sorry, you're not
course.
getting the chair.
Of
But my feet are
course.
sore. Okay, then we'll get you some mats
Oh yeah.
to sit
Oh
on.
yeah.
We're going to help you find better shoes for work, but we're not
Yeah.
bringing back the chair. It's
Yeah.
just, it's not who we want to be. It's not the image that we want to project. And so that was very, very intentional in terms
Oh my
of
goodness. Yeah.
that's not welcoming.
So it seems to me like you're, as an architect, again, you're moving around narrative, but you're also moving around physical objects. And you've
Mhm.
probably seen all the research around the environment. But
Mhm.
one of those little wee tidbits I love is Annie Thorndike, physician, a big healthcare
Mhm.
system. And she just
Mhm.
decided, what if we, in all of the places that we display our beverages, water
Mhm.
was not displayed? What if we just had water available? And so water consumption and purchases went up by 20 something percent, and soda purchases went down by like 11% just by
Oh,
making the
wow.
water available. And it's the
Available.
same thing with blue zones, those
Mhm.
parts of the world where we have a lot of a concentration of centenarians. You go, well, what makes people live to be 100? And the first thing you don't want to do is ask a centenarian, I smoked 2 packs of cigarettes. No, it's like, what you want to do is find out what is it that makes the right choices easy to make. And
Mm.
so, yeah, in those parts of the world, it's more walkable. In fact, you
Mhm.
need to walk. There's more social activity. The plate size is smaller, actually. And so
Oh, that's
the
great.
whole thing is, if you change the environment, so take the chair away,
Mhm.
then you make the right choices, the easy choices. Are there other places, Kelly Harper, where you
Mhm.
have actually shifted the environment to make the right choices more automatic and more inevitable?
Mhm. Um, the other piece is um, helping our visitors understand the value of perhaps spending a little extra time or a little bit of extra money to see one of our surcharged exhibitions, right? So while we don't put heavy sales quotas or have a hard sell, but there's a unique opportunity to see something for a short period of time when we have a special exhibition.
Yes.
And so we make sure that our teams have times themselves to experience the exhibition, right? We build that into our training. And so my front of house team are part of a union. And so when unions work, you have to pay them for a minimum amount, right? For
Sure.
when they come in for a shift. And so we have a lot more development days where we bring them in for 3 hours. We do training. We give them time to see one of our new exhibitions as it opens so that when
Mhm.
they speak to a visitor, they can speak from a personal experience in that I just saw it. It is
Yeah.
amazing. You have
Oh,
to see
yeah.
that Sharks exhibition. It's like going to a restaurant and you say, how's the penne alla vodka? Well, I don't know. I've never had it.
That's right.
Right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one of my first jobs out of high school, I took some time off before I went to university and I worked for the keg. And I
Okay.
and I went into management. I worked there 5 years. And we were
Wow.
doing customer experience before it had a
Mhm.
name because
I
that
bet.
was, and I think back sometimes to my very early days and opportunities, like, wow, we when we would launch a menu, we would bring all the staff in and they tried everything. And
Yeah.
so nowadays, if you said, well, I'm a vegetarian, I don't eat the steak, but my colleague Chris loves it, then then that's a very different conversation that I don't really know. Or,
Yeah. Oh, gracious. Yeah.
people are so excited when they see it. So
Mhm.
those are parts of like, how do we help our team understand what our visitors are looking for and how making that human connection and sharing what excited you can make a big difference for that visitor.
When we're working with leaders, we ask them, we say there's 3 circles, and who can live without a Venn diagram? But, there's the results that you want to achieve, so
Yes.
self-generating more revenue. And then there's the employee experience, and there's the client or customer
Hmm.
experience, and which one drives which, right? And so
Right.
they don't have to think too long before they go, oh my goodness, it's the employee experience that
Yes.
drives the customer experience that drives the results. But
Yes.
where do you put all your focus? It's like, oh, on the results, right? And rather than so
Exactly.
what you're
Yeah.
saying is, if I get those people trained, even though it costs me more, and they experience it, they speak about it in a way that
Right.
is compelling to
Yeah.
our customers. And that's
And
going to just translate into results as well. Yeah,
and
you
what
were going to
you
say
what
something.
what you explained, what you said is, I think, was the big shift in visitor experience and customer experience, because initially it was all about customer experience drives loyalty, and loyalty is important because visitors stay longer, refer family and friends, spend more
Yeah.
money. So that's going to drive results. And then it was really recognizing that, well, we need our teams, our employees to first to deliver great experiences. And so what is that employee experience? And that experience to me is a coin with two sides. One, it's how are you enabling me to do my role and deliver that great customer experience? But also, how do I feel about you as an employer? And so I actually spent a lot of time with HR, and I work really closely with my HR colleagues because I can't be successful without the employees. And it's not just the visitor facing team, because they get it. We hire people that like people. We hire people that have come from great, whether it's retail or other things. But how do we help the rest of the organization, the security team, the housekeeping team, the behind the scenes? If you're walking through the gallery and you're wearing your ROM lanyard and someone says, hey, how do I get to the Dinos gallery? You need to take a moment and help that visitor. So everyone, whether you're 3 steps removed from the visitor every day or you're right there with them. So thinking about how that changes. So spending time with other groups, making those connections, being intentional about why it's important for them to think about the visitor, whether it's decisions and how they're going to frame something that they're talking about, the big idea in an exhibition. And so a big part of the role is also, how do we drive a visitor-centric culture here at ROM so that we put the visitor in the center of what we do?
So unique. I mean, it makes sense when you say it, but I will tell you that what I see leaders doing is focusing on those front facing people almost exclusively. And yeah, it's like the once removed, twice, and especially
Mm-hmm.
the accountant
Yes.
is like,
Yes.
yeah,
The finance
well,
team.
it's like they just don't need to even just do
Mm-hmm.
the numbers right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so unique that you believe that it is imperative to be that, for this to be that pervasive in the culture.
Mm-hmm. Which I
Yeah.
think, I thank ROM for this opportunity, and I'm very inspired that they saw that connection, right? And so they had a visitor services team prior to me joining, but the mandate now is really bigger. And how do we drive change, the whole organization together? And how are we more collaborative? How do we see the connection between teams? All those things that, culturally are really hard to move the dial on and take time. But I think when you can articulate who we're doing this for and all rally around that visitor, it starts to become a little bit easier.
My sense is that there's got to be some real excitement there at ROM. Uh, and maybe not broad scale, maybe not everywhere, but I'll bet you this is feeling like, yeah, this is something that I have a piece of. And it's not the threat of, well, we're going to be closed down or we have to do it this way. It
Right.
feels to me like there's a sense of possibility and
Yeah.
a real opportunity of, no, we can reinvent ourselves here in a meaningful way. Is that the tone? Uh,
It certainly is, and it's like everything. It comes in waves. Like, yes, there are always challenges, but at the end of the day, we have a group of employees that are incredibly passionate about what they do,
yeah.
almost to the point where they're very protective of ROM. So from a change perspective, they're like, well, we've been doing this like this for a long time. Why do we need to do this? So more and more that becomes the challenge, right? How do you get everyone on the same page? And how do you think about that? And I think, again, I was very fortunate, and I say this to my team all the time, very privileged in the time that I spent in financial services and BMO, where they invested in people and development. And I'm at a cultural organization where that doesn't happen the same way. Managers
Sure.
develop organically. There isn't necessarily that same understanding about how do we develop managers and leaders. And so one of the pieces that was really important when we were rebranding BMO years ago, we were introduced and rolled out. It's called the influence model, and it's a McKinsey piece. It's been around for a long time. There's 4 pieces to it. The piece that resonates the most with me is role modeling. So as a leader, how do you role model
Yeah.
the change you want your team to do? But it
Yeah.
also includes, are all the right mechanisms in place, the reinforcements for the change? Do your employees actually understand and have conviction first and foremost about what you're trying to do? So coming back to that intentional language, they need to understand the why and the
Yeah.
why not. Why aren't we doing this? It's like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you why. And that was a great suggestion made, but this is why we're not doing it. And the other
Right.
one is the skills required for change, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the role modeling is a really interesting one. And it comes back to, you know, don't ask your team to do things you aren't willing to do yourself. And
Yeah.
I go back again to my keg days and, a Saturday night when we needed dinner plates and it's jumping into the dish pit with the dishwasher, washing
I can
dishes to get
imagine.
those things
Yeah.
out there, right?
I can
And
imagine.
so it's how do we use all these things together and think about the change that we're asking and what do we need to do as leaders to move that forward?
Remember the Cotter days, Kelly, when Cotter used to be all about if people analyze all the data, they will think differently and then they will change. And then Cotter had this epiphany. It's like, oh, it's not analyze, think, change. It's see, feel, change.
Yes.
And he really stepped into this understanding of that, yes, we have a logical part of our brain and that all things have to kind of check off, but that is not the impetus towards the cultural shift that you're making.
Right.
There has to be some emotional, there's something in this for me. One of my, and we talked about the driving needs, and you
Mm-hmm.
actually talked a little bit about that in terms of how systems can actually meet the different needs. And I can't even
Mm-hmm.
believe that you remember them after all these years, but you were talking about belonging and freedom and
Yeah.
significance. And can you just talk a little bit about
Sure.
that in terms of how you use systems to meet those oxygen like needs?
Yeah. Sure. And so when I was talking about systems, it's like systems can create capacity for people to do other things.
Yeah.
Systems can create consistency. So if security is one of your driving needs and you like to follow the rules and you want to be able to deliver what's asked, a system helps you do that, right? Because it's
That's,
very sequential, often process driven. It's like, great, I am doing what I'm being asked to do.
that's it.
If freedom is one of your driving needs, and you can talk about, well, this system's actually going to save you 2 hours a day, so you can focus on these newer things, or that project you wanted to move forward, or the things you wanted to pilot. That's going to give you freedom. It's like, oh, okay, I want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you think about belonging, it's like, okay, well, we're all going to do it the same way, so that we learn from each other. And I really want everyone's feedback. So you're going to feel like you're part of the creation, so that you're getting that sense of belonging. The significance piece is if you can demonstrate the why, then it's like, okay, well, this is meaningful. So this is significant. And so I'm actually adding value to the organization. And the fifth one is going to escape me.
Meaning. Yeah.
Meaning, yes, the
Yeah.
meaning. It's again, if you can now pull this up to a higher level about what it does to the visitor, because it might be we're freeing up time so that we can build X, which is what the visitor says they want from us, but we can't do it now because we're mired in processes that are redundant and we don't have the same time.
Right.
Okay, so it's a different way to think about one change, because it's going to mean something different depending on the perspective of the team or the individual.
It's so unique that you do that because I will tell you from having worked with leaders for 32 years now that it's mystifying to you and I, but they have their own driving need that matters most to them. And it
Mm-hmm.
might be significant. So that's progress and reputation and legacy. And
Mm-hmm.
we're going to make a dent in the universe. And it is mystifying that they believe that currency, if you
Mm-hmm.
will have a lot of power across the board. And so
Right.
whenever they get in front of the entire ROM,
Mm-hmm.
they pound that significance thing. And the person for whom belonging is their driving needs, like it leaves them cold. The person
It
for whom
does.
meaning, it
Mm-hmm.
leaves them. And so what you're doing is you're saying there's one story around system creating capacity,
Mm-hmm.
but capacity to what end?
Right.
Is it's very Yeah, it's very bespoke for each person, and I just love the brilliance of
It's
that.
interesting. I'll give you an interesting. You made me think about this. What if a leader wants something, and sometimes it can be positioned the wrong way. And so,
Yeah,
when you come into the ROM, when you come in from the Queen's Park entrance, there's a beautiful rotunda, and it goes into our big open. It's called the Corelli Gallery, and we like it to be sort of free of clutter, so you can see right through.
yeah,
And when I arrived, we were moving something and we were going to put something in the middle, and someone said, "Oh, the director so and so doesn't like that." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't understand that." And so it became the language, this myth that so and so doesn't like this.
okay,
And recently, I was having a conversation with one of my team members about just before I joined, and we were rolling out a strategic plan. And the strategic plan was all grounded in visitor.
okay,
So my hypothesis is when that was first introduced, it was because we wanted to protect this view for the visitor. So whether it was said that way or not, or over time, broken telephone, visitor was
yeah,
dropped and it was accredited to the individual, people just kind of roll their eyes at that. It's like, well, this is why intention language is so important. Because if I told you it's because of the visitor and that was actually the vision of this individual, would you feel differently? Yes, they would feel differently. So we need to, some of these stories, some of these rationales, some of the reasons why we need to keep alive. Because when you lose that, people are now frustrated. It's like, well, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. It's like, okay,
yeah,
but now think of it from the visitor perspective. So
yeah,
that was
and
like a very small example, but to me it was like, wow, okay, so we need to keep telling the why because I've been here a long time. I forgot it maybe, or I wasn't here when it first happened, so I didn't hear the original story, or an employee told me the story and they told it to me wrong,
yeah, yeah.
right? So as leaders, we need to think about. I know might be tired of talking about it, but not all our employees get it the way we want them to get it.
Right. And for someone like you who carries that sensibility around these driving needs are very different and they're person specific. Now, when we think about the visitor experience, you are competing against Netflix. You're
Mm-hmm.
competing against the Blue Jays. I'm going to take my family into
Yeah.
Toronto, but not to the Ontario
Right.
Museum, but or to the, God forbid, Maple Leafs game, whatever. Uh, but in the attention economy,
Mm-hmm.
where what we are extracting from every person is their attention. And Netflix is, the immediacy of
Mm-hmm.
that and how instant you can grab my attention. I can imagine that it takes a little bit of work to get to that sense of, oh, this was a massive experience of appreciation. But I had to, like an art gallery, I had to work for it a little bit
Mm-hmm.
at the museum. And so tell me, in terms of belonging and significance and
Mm-hmm.
meaning, all of those visitors have the same needs that your
Mm-hmm.
employees have. How is it uh, that you generate or access those driving needs with your visitors as well?
Yep. Yep. That's a great question. Part of it is recognizing that we can't be everything for everyone.
Yeah,
So, as marketers do, we have segmentation, and we're looking for who are the cultural enthusiasts, who are the thrill seekers that want to see something new. But it's also about understanding this life stage of visitor and how
okay,
they want to spend their time. And so,
yeah,
for us, if you think about Netflix, it's that immediate need fulfilled. So that's where things like interactives and immersive experiences are
yeah,
really changing what visitors expect um, of an experience. So how do we, as the ROM, build that in when we're um, renovating a gallery or deciding which special exhibition to bring to ROM or which special exhibition we want to create at ROM? And so that's a big part of it, recognizing that because of the competition that we might see a visitor or a family once every 3 years, right? If they're from outside of Toronto. So how do we stay top of mind? How do we consistently demonstrate that there's always something exciting to do? So that those exhibitions and that exhibition calendar. So right now we have one on sharks. We have our wildlife photographer of the year. and we have one a Flemish art, saints, sinners, lovers, and fools. And so there's something for everyone. So that composition of experiences is really important. And then you
Yes.
add in the other things happening. So we're just getting ready to coming up to the holidays. We have a ROM for the holidays experience. So what can you bring here that's unique that your kids can only do during the holiday period?
Mm.
So why am I going to come now versus in January?
Yeah.
So what are those engagement activities where they can learn about the stars and build something? We have performances happening. We have lectures that happen in the evening. So trying to stay top of mind that your visit doesn't have to be 3 hours on a Saturday. There are other
Yeah.
things that you can do and other things that you can enjoy. But for us, it's also how do we, all these things are expensive. How do we prioritize them? How do we, again, it's back to growing our self-generated revenue. The philanthropy arm of the ROM is really important so that we can continually invest in the ROM so it doesn't feel like the same old ROM I came on a school trip when I was in grade 6. Some of
Right.
that's important because some people want the nostalgia of coming, but the kids that are coming today weren't like us when we came to a museum. Like we were
Yeah.
happy opening the bird drawer and looking at birds, and we're competing with screen time now. It's very, very different.
Totally.
So it is that evolution that we as leaders need to think about. How do we balance and protect the stories we want to tell, but also in unique and different ways?
I love that. Wow. When it's all said and done, and I hope that's a long, long time from now, but for you, uh, and I'm guessing, but I'm sure that relationships and connection and trusted and culture that matters to you. I'm sure that freedom to be able to get your fingerprints on stuff and push the boundary that matters to you. But my guess is that there's some sort of hybrid and amalgam of significance and meaning that are the juiciest bits for you. But I'm just guessing. What will it
Yeah.
be at the end that you say, yeah, no, this was a meaning play for me, Brady? What will it be?
Yeah. For me, I think it's that intersection between human motivation and system design. So, how can
Okay.
I bring clarity to our employees? How do we build structures that help people thrive? How do we give them the tools to succeed?
Yeah.
And how do we show up in ways that then are going to be believable, right? And so I
Right.
think it's all that over time will drive culture, but it's also um, for me, it's about supporting the visitor and getting the joy in that with, and then internalizing that for the team to really recognizing that they can go home at the end of the day and realize, wow, I really made that visitor's day. And even if it's one visitor because you helped them or you recommended something and they went and saw this incredible jewel in our tech gallery, it's like, wow, you were right. I'm so glad I went to see that. And that connection is going to be what drives you to come back tomorrow
Yeah.
and be excited about work, right? So it really is back to me for the people, enabling them and having them feel good about what they do.
You've really helped coalesce something for me about you. And, we've known each other for quite some time now. And I wouldn't have said this before today, but I think today I would say you
Mm-hmm,
just said getting the joy into something, right?
mm-hmm,
Into the employees because they're seeing the joy in the visitor experience. And I feel like there's a part of you that um, it is about joy, but I almost feel like there's a little bit of good troublemaker. There's a little bit of good, mischief of uh, all of this stuff in the background. Is like there is a play here that's going to take us to a whole new place, and I can see how it's going to work.
mm-hmm.
And it's like this very benevolent mischief maker who's all about joy. Does that ring at all for you, or is there
It's
anything in your history that would support that?
Yeah, it's ironic that you say that because for the past probably 18 months, I've been saying I'm in my shit disturber era.
That's it.
Because right, because
Yeah.
I'm at a point in my career where I recognize sometimes the timing has to be right for organizations, to do something and to drive change. So I'm very fortunate that I have an incredible team that are of dedicated individuals that have been here a long time, my leadership team. And so let's just try something with us. So go back to the role modeling that I was thinking
Yeah.
about, why don't we role model for the rest of the organization? What is possible? So let's try some stuff just in our own sphere of influence and see what happens, and not wait for the whole organization to do something. And that also, early in customer experience, I remember I was thinking, it's like, if we just had that one technology, we'd be successful. It's like, at the end of the day, giving joy is, doesn't always cost anything.
Right.
McDonald's would say smiles are free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saying thank you and welcome doesn't cost us anything. So we can overcomplicate things. And so I do try to push respectfully the edge of the envelope a little bit, but also demonstrate what's possible when we think about things differently, or when we bring data to a decision making about, do we think this is going to be successful? It's like, well, let's look at the last time we did that. Let's bring some data. Some of that thinking is newer to a cultural organization that's been doing
Sure.
things differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time I was at the ROM, I was a youngster. I
Okay.
hate to tell you that, but what I want to do is I want to open up an opportunity. So I have 13 grandchildren now, and I'm
13?
sitting here, yeah, and I'm sitting here
Oh,
talking to you
wow.
thinking, I want to take my grandchildren to the ROM
Yes.
as I'm talking to you. And I'm wondering if other people listening to this podcast or
Mm-hmm.
watching this podcast are having exactly the same
Mm-hmm.
reaction. And if they are teetering one way or the other,
Mm-hmm.
what would Kelly Harper say to those
Yeah.
people? And so I want to give you the open, here's and
Oh,
passing
that's
you the
great.
mic.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
What
if
would
you
you say?
haven't been, yeah, if you haven't been to the ROM in a long time, I really encourage you to come. One, you will see it differently through the eyes of your grandchildren or your children when you come, if you haven't been.
Yeah.
If you've never been before and you're not sure, we have so many opportunities to break down some of those barriers. So the first thing is, the third Tuesday of every month is free. So you
Oh,
can come
wow.
for free. In the evening from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, we're open late. You book a free ticket online and you can come and experience ROM, and it won't cost you a thing.
Amazing. Amazing.
Right? We have the special exhibitions. You have to pay a little bit extra. So we actually have people that come every month. It's like, okay, I'll come this month and I'll see sharks, and I'll come next month and I'll
Mhm.
see something. It's only going to cost me $9 to see. Why not?
Right.
We have a lot of evening events. So if you just want to learn more about one thing, we have some speaker events.
Yeah.
We know it is challenging because we're not open late. Other than that Tuesday, we close at 5:30 most days.
Okay.
We know
Yeah.
that it's challenging getting into Toronto, whether it's construction or traffic or those other things.
Yeah.
So there's parking that is nearby. Take the GO, park your car, come in on the GO train. We're right on the
Mhm.
subway line. Make that
That's what
easy.
I would do. Yeah.
Yeah, and just come and rediscover. There really is something for everyone here, and I think it's when people haven't come in a long time, it's like, why haven't we been to the ROM? You forget sometimes, especially if it's in your own backyard. We're not often tourists in our own city, so we
Yeah.
forget about things, and it's that initial inertia to get off the couch. If you want to see unique things, you can come in a busy time, but if you want to come when it's quieter, the winter months are quieter, or the weekends are quieter. Summer's busy. We get a lot of tourists. So
I bet.
there is a cadence of, based on you. And that is one of the things we also learned coming out of COVID, that people don't always want the crowds the way they used to, right? And so
Oof.
people's behaviors are changing. But I
Mhm.
think there really is something for everyone. And when I tell people that I work at the ROM, they're like, that must be so cool. I'm like, it is. Because
Yes.
I learn something every day. There are days that, if I'm feeling, frustrated or overwhelmed, I can just go find a quiet spot in the gallery. I can watch visitors. I can, watch a video. Right now, there's a nice little nook in our wildlife photographer of the year, and it's dimly lit, and there's a little couch there, and I can just sit and reflect. And so that can be for you as well as an individual. You could come and
Yeah.
spend an hour, or you can spend all day, but I know you will leave, I think, feeling enriched and energized, and that you learned something new.
I have no doubt. As you were speaking, and there's this picture that I had in my mind that the future is hurtling toward us
Hmm.
at an incredible rate, but the past is just ambling away from us, right?
Yeah.
There's a peacefulness about the past in one sense, and that I can almost feel walking through the ROM, and I'm going to come with my grandchildren. But when I do, what I expect is that there's a groundedness to
Hmm.
history. There's a sense of, yes, this is all taken care of now. And it's so
Yeah.
different than what's happening here and coming at me.
Right.
And I can use more of that kind of exhale in
Yeah.
my life, Kelly
That's
Harper.
good. We talk about actually our mission is to understand the past, make sense of the present, and come
Mm,
together to shape a shared future.
wow.
And so when you
Wow.
think about, is it meaningful what we do, and you add it in that context, it's like, yeah, it is, to understand where we've come from and what happened, and how can we make change. So for someone who has 13 grandchildren, it's like, oh, how do I leave this world a better
Right.
place? And we're learning about Crawford Lake in Ontario, and how we're learning so much about the environment from this place that's right in our back door. And it's this wonderful non-surcharge experience that's up on our third floor right now. So it really is that, and this intersection of art, culture, and nature. So if you're the person
Mm,
who's been to an art gallery, and this is me, and by the third Roman room of paintings, I'm like, oh, I am done. I remember going to the Art Institute of Chicago, and I'm like, okay, I got to get out of this section. I got to see something
I
more
am,
current.
I'm
It's just
so
not
with
my
you.
jam. Okay,
Yeah.
but I can appreciate it in smaller doses, and so
Yeah.
and so dinos might not be your thing either, but your grandkids will love it. And
Yeah,
we
they will.
just reopened our dino gallery. We've just renovated it, and it's spectacular. And then, these special exhibitions that are going to make you think. We just, for 8 months, we had an exhibition about Auschwitz not long ago, not far away. And it was incredibly
Yes.
meaningful at a very difficult time in the
Yes.
world.
Oh my
But it was
goodness.
an important story to tell. So when we think of art, culture, and nature, and the intersection of those three, and what you can take of it, there really is something for everyone.
Hmm. Kelly Harper, thank you for what you do in the world.
Oh,
And
you're welcome.
yeah, I'm, I've got lovely feelings going up and down my spine right now.
Well, I do like oxygen poker. You mentioned it in those belonging needs. When I first heard that, it is something that stuck with me. And I come from the Myers Briggs School. I'm actually a True Colors facilitator, and all these little things in our toolbox to help our teams, and even personally find meaning in our work,
Yeah,
is so important. And so it's stuck with me, and I find ways to use it. And thank you
I
for this
love that.
opportunity as well to reconnect.
It's my privilege. I was looking forward to
Excellent.
it and I was not disappointed. Thank you.
Super. Excellent.
Yeah. So when I get down there, I'm going to come knocking on the VP
Yes.
of Visitor Experience,
Yes.
say, hey, walk me around a little bit.
For sure. I would love that.
Okay, Kelly, thank you so much for being here today. And yeah, I think everybody knows where to find Rom. But as you said, take the go down. And how close are you to Union Station?
Yeah, so there's a museum station on the University line, St. George on the Bloor line. So if you're coming in from
Uh,
out of town, the one other thing I'll mention is that we also are part of many library pass programs. So the Toronto Public Library, you can check out a pass for a family of four to come to the ROM for free. And we've
oh my
expanded
goodness.
to other libraries outside of Toronto, so you can look at that again. How do we remove barriers to
Yeah.
help people? Um, we're very excited. Next summer, they're building a elevator at the museum station. So once you get off the station, there'll be a elevator for all those strollers and other people with accessibility
Uh,
needs to come in.
yes.
We have some great school programs, so encourage your schools to talk to your folks, to talk to teachers about having your kids or
Oh
grandkids come on a
yeah. Oh
school
yeah.
visit. But yeah, there's lots of ways, and yeah, we're 15-minute subway ride up from Union Station.
Beautiful. All right. Well,
Excellent.
enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much for investing the time to be on What You See You today.
Thanks, Brady. Good to see you.
You too.
Bye.